and welcome to episode 293 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host, Stefan Buczko, and this week we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's 2-2 draw away to Eintracht Frankfurt and preview Saturday's Topspiel against Werder Bremen. To discuss all that and more joins me the one and only Constantin Eckner. Hello, Constantin. How are you doing?
Hello, Stefan. How are you?
Pretty well. First things first, this episode is sponsored by the extremely generous George Clark. Thank you for your very generous contribution. And Jordan and his wife Suvi, who are from Charlotte, North Carolina, and will visit their very first game at the Westfalenstadion this Saturday. Thanks for your contribution and enjoy the game, guys. I have to say, sadly, it's only us two because Matthias is on a work trip and Lars has fallen ill. So get well soon, Lars. Konstantin, but...
Keep fighting.
Yes. But all that being said, after this quite interesting 2-2 result away to Eintracht Frankfurt, I wanted to talk to you anywho, because you were one of the few on Twitter at least to voice criticism that actually had to do with football and not with mentality, and we'll get to that later. But I would agree with you in many ways, but particular in your analysis after the game. So of course Dortmund had 2 leads, 1 per halftime, and threw it away in the end. In the 88th minute, Thomas Delaney scored an own goal. But I think in both instances, Dortmund sort of begged for it. And with that, Dortmund's away record still looks quite dire. Just 1 win, 1 loss, and 1 draw after 3 away matches in the Bundesliga, which is not where Dortmund want to be. And now they're 3rd in the table, 3 points behind Leipzig, 1 point behind Bayern. But given how quote unquote easy the schedule was for Dortmund so far, is definitely not satisfying. And if I may say so, I didn't think Frankfurt was particularly good on Sunday. So that makes it even worse. So Konstantin, I will free you on your endless monologue now and asking you what went wrong for Dortmund.
Oh, that's a very open question, actually.
Yes, I think you can make general points or specific ones, however you see fit.
Okay. Where to begin? I guess looking at the Frankfurt match, I mean, it came basically down to Dortmund not really closing the match when they had a chance, when they were leading, also not dominating the match in stretches where it was really necessary to back Frankfurt off a little bit. That didn't happen because when I voiced my criticism on Twitter, as you mentioned, it was really about Dortmund not being as dominant as they should be, and then Favre not having the right mindset about being or having a dominant team instead of what he likes to do, what it seems he likes to do is to sit deep when leading or in the second half or so, and really just trying to fence off the opponents. But after all, that doesn't necessarily work out against a couple of opponents, especially teams like Frankfurt, who are strong playing down the rings, where Dortmund lacks some quality in terms of defending the rings. I think that was very obvious in this match in particular. And I mean, both goals were assisted by cross passes. The second goal even by basically 2 cross passes. When you see how Hinteregger makes a run into the box and basically plays the lateral to the other side, and then Delaney basically knocks it in. But you get my point.
It was Kamada who
it was Kamada, right? Yeah, but it was basically it was also like a cross pass. It's, I mean, if Delaney doesn't knock it into the net, then
it was a cross, like a cross and a shot in one. And before we actually talk about the defensive liability that Dortmund have on the wings, which if we look at the goal, I think it's just really hard for Guerrero to even block that cross, and it would be more on Julian Brandt to pick up the run of Hinteregger, if I would point my criticism. But before we talk about that, which
but Guerrero was on the left side and Hinteregger was on the other side.
Yes, exactly. But
so you mean
Jurgen Brandt was the one asleep who didn't cover Hinteregger.
Or Hakimi. I mean, that's also what's really striking right now. And more to make more of a general point is the Dortmund just also lack consistency. What I mean with consistency is that you have someone like Hakimi, for instance, who makes a few pretty great appearances made a few great appearances after Piszczek was injured or got injured, and you really thought that there's no need to rush Piszczek back on the field because Hakimi does his job quite well. But then you got a match like the one against Frankfurt where it was really on a silver platter for Hakimi to have another great match, because the matchup against Kostic is very favorable, because Kostic and tracking back something like, I don't know, doesn't really work too well together. And you had a few scenes where you can really see few situations where Hakimi really exploited Kostic's lack of defensive reliability and just him take that seriously to track back. That's also why Hinteregger plays behind him to basically give him some protection, but still. But after all, I mean, there wasn't much Hakimi did in the match. And I just pick out one player. There are other players you could also pick out, like Royce, on Jadon Sancho, of course. I don't think they lack consistency. They just like a lot of things right now. It's not about consistency because they haven't really performed that well. I mean, Sancho scored a couple of goals, yes, but in terms of just overall performance and attacking output apart from goals, which is also important because if you score one, but it's also good to make your teammates look good. And that's not really the case right now. So there's no consistency when it comes to the team overall, because some players play great one week and play pretty badly 3, 4, 5 days later. So that's also somehow a pretty big issue right now. And also when you look at the team at Frankfurt, I mean, yes, they were leading twice during the match, but still, who was really on the pitch and really an outstanding performer that night? Really, I mean, maybe Axel Witsel.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Maybe, but there's maybe one, maybe one or two. So maybe Witsel and Hazard made a pretty good match actually. Okay, let's say there are two. So that's it. It's like you got 11 players on the pitch, and you got like maybe one or two who really were outstanding, and all the other players were pretty mediocre. Still, you are leading against Frankfurt, but I try to look at the bigger picture here, because you can drop 2 points at Frankfurt. I don't think that's devastating, because Frankfurt is still, despite losing their 3 strikers, they have signed a couple of new players in their attacking department, so it isn't that bad when it comes to Frankfurt and the overall quality of the Frankfurt squad. But it's just Dortmund lacks, I don't know, some consistency and just reaching the levels where you really should perform when you want to compete for the championship, and they don't do that right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment, especially if we talk about Marco Reus or Jadon Sancho, especially in Sancho's case. The output, the scorer points, the goals, the assists is all there, but everything else not really. And that's obviously a problem. What I found about this match is that Frankfurt didn't really play well, and Dortmund were quite sloppy, but nevertheless, I thought Dortmund were still the dominant side. However, there were too many moments where Dortmund had the chance to break Frankfurt and completely pick them apart, but then the through ball or whatever just never came off because Dortmund got stuck in midfield because they took too many touches, be it Delaney, Royce, or sometimes even Witsel, Sancho, whoever had the ball. You just talked about Hakimi. I think him and Hazard or Sancho also. These 3 players had, I think, 3 or 4 instances where they had miles of green ahead of them, and one ball would have completely opened up the entire field, but the ball never came. And then, of course, we are talking about a 2-2, and that result might affect how we talk about that game. But I want to come back to Hakimi and your point about how Lucien Favre plays, because I agree that Dortmund should not just sit back so often and try to counter them. I think that's a good option if you're coach at Gladbach, but I think at Dortmund you need to tweak that a little bit. In some phases of the game, it's okay, but not for like 15 minutes or however long it was. I think Dortmund are way too susceptible to just inviting the opponent to play half-field crosses into the box and just, the old spray and pray football. And what I would like you to ask you about is when we look at how Dortmund lost the ball before the 2-2. I think it was just a simple ball by Hakimi to the right into the, past the sideline. I think he just missed Sancho, but it was out of a move where Dortmund were rushing forward again after the turnover. And, it's obviously an unforced error, but I think these errors arise from Dortmund's style of play, that once they gain possession very deep in their own half, that they're so desperate to play it forward, with the highest speed instead of trying to control it. And that, of course, forces a lot of turnovers to the opponent that you could prevent by just keeping the ball a bit with, let's call it, defensive possession. So I'd like to know how you would handle it if you were the Dortmund coach, and how you would approach it opposed to Favre is doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, what you say is one of the, I think, major points of criticism towards Favre, that sitting deep is one thing that's concerning, but also that then these, let's say, long-range counterattacks not really work out that well. I mean, I don't know if there's maybe a wrong perception of like what Dortmund's attacking department, the front four can really do. I mean, they are all quite fast, but they are more like dynamic than fast, so to say. Like when they can really run down an opponent, they are much, much better than just these long dashes, these 50-yard dashes, where you try to, being outnumbered three against 5 or something, where you try to break through and often enough lose the ball, and then these turnovers, then you have to track back, and it's really tiring also, especially for someone like Paco Alcázar, who is just, who's just trying to keep these counterattacks alive again and again, and then making like runs that are pretty much pointless, but since he's the center forward, he has to make them. It's just, chasing the ball.
Yeah, when he gets the ball, he tries to make some outrageous flick on or back heel just to play it fast. And I think sometimes that's also just detrimental to Dortmund's attack. Just to add to that.
I mean, yeah, and also when he chased the ball and he gets it ahead of one of the defenders, then mostly like he's somewhere on the left side, often on the left side, somewhere out there, but not really in the center of the pitch. So there's no really, and then the defender can basically stand him up and position him. The defender can then position himself and pretty much block Alcázar's path towards the goal, and Alcázar has to do something else, and then there gets additional pressure from one of the left back or the right back tracks back, and then he's outnumbered again and again. Like, it doesn't really work out that way. I mean, Favre was quite successful with Gladbach back in the day, with these counterattacks, but different team, different time, different opponents, actually.
And also different, what do you call it? Anspruch, different level of expectations, yeah, basically, because, he did well at Gladbach, but it's not like he won the championship there, so there were also a lot of dull games with him at Gladbach, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were many games were just where Gladbach edged out wins. And also, I mean, they had a couple of really fast players and as a great ball carrier in Rafael, actually. So still, it was different. Also, opponents or many Bundesliga teams these days know much better how to defend these counterattacks, because in the league overall there was so much counterattacking going on for quite a while, that of course many teams got smarter and now know how to defend these counterattacks much better. Especially like also individually, the center backs know quite well how to position themselves to basically, finish up, neutralize these counterattacks.
I think Hinteregger and Hasebe did quite well this particular thing that you just said, the last ditch defending, the Restverteidigung or whatever. When Dortmund broke through, I think Hasebe especially is just a very smart defender who knows how to handle these things.
Right, yes. Also, remember the first 25 minutes or so against Leverkusen, where Alcázar, made runs against Jonathan Tah like 4 or 5 times. And Tah was Tah is not like really fast or something. He's not quicker than Alcázar, but still he was quite smart, and he was ahead of Alcázar always. And knew how to pretty much, let nothing going to happen. So, and then it can be quite frustrating. And also then, the entire team, the back line and also the 2 center midfielders have to, push forward, to close the gap to Alcázar and Reus and Sancho. But also have to be quite wary about, basically long balls, basically the counterattacks. That can come, and can caught them on the wrong foot, can catch them on the wrong foot. So yeah, overall, I think from more of a strategic, point of view, it's not really working what Favre, wants to do. I mean, there are matches and there are like situations and just pretty much matchups, where Dortmund can look pretty not incredible, but pretty good. Especially Leverkusen, second half against Leverkusen, for instance, there's an open match. There's a bit of craziness, a bit of wildness. There's this, like, there are open spaces. The opponents are not as compact as they should be. So then Dortmund looks pretty good. And then I think the quality of the front four and of Witsel and of Hakimi, these guys really can shine. But in matches like the one against Frankfurt, for instance, the quality isn't really like feasible. I mean, you see that Dortmund is of course one of the better teams or best teams in the Bundesliga, but it's not as obvious as it should be, I think, or as it has to be to play for the championship. Yeah, and especially when Dortmund then start to sit so deep and just defend in the pretty deep 4-4-2. Just not really what they should do. I mean, we talked about Jurgen Klopp before the show, just briefly, and I think what Klopp really does well and did well at Dortmund is that he makes his center backs, especially or his backline in general, he makes his backline shine, and makes them look incredibly good. Why? Because he basically protects the back line as much as he can with just more intense pressing, with a more intense defending by the midfielders. So the back line, of course, they have to, clean some balls, make some clearances, make some last ditch tackles and so on. And they also have to defend the penalty area and on occasions, but not as often as Dortmund's backline right now has to do. And that's why, under Klopp, like Neven Subotic, for instance, looked like a world beater. And that's why basically every center back under Jurgen Klopp, not named Dejan Lovren, has looked incredible. So even Joel Matip. But Favre, does a disservice to his defenders, basically. I mean, they can, of course, survive on individual quality, especially someone like Hummels or Guerrero or Kanji. They can, of course, to a large extent, but still, they suffer under the Favre system. And, I don't know if it's really working that well. And also if you got players like Witsel and Delaney in center midfield, who are also great pressing players when they are a little bit positioned a little bit higher, and when they can go into these intense duels or can, play zone coverage at times even, then I think it's much better than just to have them be positioned 10 yards ahead of the penalty area, where you have to just stand and just watch the opponents and just make or do man-to-man coverage. Can
I interject though real quick?
Sure.
I'm wondering how intense you could press if you could actually play that Jürgen Klopp style of pressing right now with Dortmund's front two, let's say with Alcázar and with Marco Reus, because Alcázar, to me, is not the fastest and most dynamic striker who has the, let's say, energy levels to keep that intensity up for 90 minutes. It doesn't have to be 90 minutes, of course, but to play it often enough to be effective, let's put it this way. And if you've seen Marco Reus play, be it for the German national team or Borussia Dortmund, I think his intensity is also quite lacking. There are too many instances where he's just trotting over the field instead of trying to press. I don't know if that's down to the coach or just because of his age. I mean, obviously he's 30 years old, not as dynamic as he used to, and is doing a little bit less of running. Yes, he has a couple of moments in the game where he tracks back quite deeply and wins possession, but if you talk about a more structural approach, then I think both Alcázar and Reus are a bit problematic right now, and I don't see how this would change to the positive. So I would ping that question back at you. If Favre were to say, okay, guys, it's time to press more intense in more phases of the game, do you even think that's feasible right now for Dortmund with Alcázar and Reus basically leading the line?
Yeah, but they are leading the line, but they are not the ones who are supposed to intercept. They are just the front two, and basically just keeping opposing center backs busy, using cover shadows to neutralize opposing center midfielders and stuff. And that's what they can do. I mean, Reus is a pretty talented pressing player, which he shows at times, but not as often.
It's my criticism exactly.
Yeah, sure. Why not? But I think that comes down more to the system that Dortmund plays right now. If you're the only one who's pressing intensely, I mean that makes no sense.
No.
And also at the German national team is basically the same. I mean these days or after during the last 12 months, let's say, the German national team plays much more passive or defends much more passively than it did. Or no, not really. Actually, the German national team was never really a pressing team.
Not since 2010. I would say.
Yeah. I mean the last 10 years. Was never really a strong suit of German's national team under Löw. So. Yeah, I don't know how you can really take that into account, I guess. But in terms of as far as Dortmund pressing, I guess I of the belief you can do that. I mean, you have Hazard and Götze is actually a pretty, like from an individual standpoint, is one of the more talented pressing players. Brandt as well. So I mean, you have the players to do that, and it's more of a collective effort, actually.
Yeah, and we saw against Leverkusen and Barcelona in instances that Dortmund's counter-pressing is actually quite sharp if they actually try it, which I think is just not often enough. So to summarize your criticism on Favre right now is that you think he is not trying to play dominantly enough. And I think for Dortmund, that has been, the question of their own evolution, literally in the recent years since Jürgen Klopp made them big, because I think the problem for Dortmund under Klopp in the final seasons were exactly similar questions we're asking right now, is that Dortmund were a very good team, yes, but the best teams are the best teams because they consistently play well, irrelevant of who is your opponent. You just manage to impose your own game regardless of who you play against. And for Dortmund right now and back then, the problem was there was a specific type of opponent they played extremely well against, and there was a specific type of opponent they completely could not break down, completely struggled with. And I think there was a period under Thomas Tuchel where this problem for Dortmund was actually, I wouldn't say solved, but it was mitigated. And now I think it's
first season under Tuchel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because Dortmund finally switched to possession football and became more
they
dominant.
played possession football under Klopp. I don't think you can really say that you have to play possession football. I mean, there are teams in Europe who don't play possession football, but they are still dominant because you just, as you say, you have to basically do your thing, and be consistent and be intense. You can also be in more an intense pressing team and still be dominant. And
that's true.
Make the opponent suffer. But right now, Dortmund doesn't do one or the other.
But
really
intense
possession football or intense pressing football like it was, or counter pressing possession football like it was under Klopp. Klopp's football is also counter pressing possession. Tuchel's was more like just possession. And you can see it. Liverpool is a good example. It's also possession and counter pressing a lot, and that's how they are dominant against so many teams. Even against Barcelona and the likes. And Dortmund doesn't do one or the other. It's just that
it's passive non-possession.
Yeah, it's like non-possession and passive defending. So it's like the worst of both worlds. And what I think it's really it's just I don't know, Favre's oral approach is the problem here. Doesn't really work that well. I mean, it worked at times in the past, but as you said, it worked for Gladbach to some extent. It worked for Nice when he was in France, but that was even a little bit different. But right now it doesn't. If you want to be a dominant side, and maybe you don't have the best squad that's out there, you have a very good squad and a good starting 11, but you don't have like 11 world beaters on the pitch, which, in Dortmund's case, I think the squad is great, and there are a lot of great players on the pitch in each starting 11. They have so much, they had so far. Still, it's not like Hazard or Delaney is like levels above the Frankfurt players. It's not the case. So, and I come back to Liverpool. It's the same. Look at Liverpool midfield. Not like Gigi Wijnaldum and John Henderson are like levels above the opposition. But what they do is they're really radical with their footballing approach. And I think if you want to be dominant, and maybe you don't have the best players, and like a Real Madrid like squad, you need a radical footballing approach. Look at Liverpool, look at Atletico. They do it that way, and they are highly successful, and not just successful, because I think under Favre you can always be in the top 4, top 3. But I think right now the expectations at Dortmund, as they stated during the summer, Watzke and the likes, they want to win the championship. So you have to do more. You have to be more radical. And
I think Dortmund were quite radical after they went up 1-0, because he can be radical in several directions.
So you mean negatively?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
No, but seriously, I thought it was quite amazing, also in the worst sense possible, how Dortmund abated, really. I mean, they put more pressure on Frankfurt until they scored, and then they just sort of dropped off. And
which is also concerning, because they scored in the 11th minute. So
yeah,
it's not. Yeah, sometimes maybe you score late in the game or after 60 minutes, and maybe you have to regain some energy or something. Yeah, that's all right. But they scored like after a couple of minutes, and they right away turned into like just I don't know what it is, an old-fashioned Italian side or something.
Yeah, basically they were like, okay, we're 1-0 up now. We can just shift 3 gears down and wait for the next counterattack or whatever. And I think you should ignore the scoreline and just be as relentless as before. And Dortmund were influenced by that, and this is what brings us back to the good old mentality question, where I feel like it's maybe not a conscious thing, but Dortmund just do play a bit differently. Obviously, the scoreline also changes the impetus of Frankfurt. Obviously, they need to score and get back into the game, so they obviously will do a little bit more. But I think it's unacceptable for Dortmund in the next half hour basically to do less and less. And in the end, I think in the 43rd minute they conceded, and it was very deserved at that point because Dortmund were just so passive. And that to me is something that really annoys me because it's just unnecessary. I think at this point of the season and knowing how the game away to Union Berlin went, you need to play with more intensity and, as you put it so nicely, more radical. So I don't know what there's more to say, especially Frankfurt, in my view, were there for the taking. Frankfurt made a lot of mistakes. They had a lot of weird turnovers and not a lot of coherence in their game. And I thought that Frankfurt were just as susceptible as they were against Arsenal to counterattacks, but even that Dortmund botched too many times. So that's just quite annoying because I think this was a game where Dortmund could have comfortably won 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. And of course, a lot of people said, all these discussions were void if Dortmund were just clinical. And I have to say to that, but usually Dortmund are very clinical. I think they outperform their expected goals. I haven't looked at it, but that's just how I feel it is. And obviously there will be days where they're not as clinical as at other days, but nevertheless, I think the issues are a bit more structural, and I think we've discussed this at length. And I don't know what else to say about the game, and I think the discussion about Lucien Favre is warranted, and if he really and his idea is the right, if he's the right guy at the right time for Dortmund, I believe he necessarily isn't, but maybe there will come a turnaround from I don't know where, but I don't see it. I think that Dortmund will remain to be a stronghold at home, but if that's how they present themselves away from home so often, then I just think time will just mean that their average points that they score will be so low that they just can't keep up with Bayern and Leipzig, who look much stronger, more radical, and more intense, to be honest, in their games right now than Dortmund, who look like they don't care. And that's something we criticized in the Rückrunde. So I don't know. Do you have any other things to say about this game, about what happened on the pitch or in general?
No.
Okay. Then I think we can move on to what happened after the game. Right, because Marco Reus went on a little rant in an interview with Ecki Häuser, and I took the liberty to transcribe the discussion, and I will play the field reporter from Sky, Ecki Häuser, and Constantin has the honor of playing Marco Reus, and I will just begin now. After the humiliation away to Union Berlin, a lot of things were said about Dortmund's mentality. Is that still lacking?
This is really going on my nerves with your mentality bullshit, seriously.
But doesn't it hit the nail on the head?
Today? Are you serious now? The 2-2 was scored due to mentality? Are you serious? We played dumb, sure, but don't come to me with your shit about mentality. Every week it's the same crap. Our main problem is that we can't see out a game. But that has nothing to do with mentality. A goal like the 2-2 just mustn't happen. If we make it 3-1, this game is over. But we also could have seen it out to win 2-1. But we didn't, that's it.
Yeah, very nice, Constantin. It's much better than the Italian version you read earlier to me. So yeah,
what to mentality?
No, but honestly, what do you make of this outburst of Marco Reus? I can understand that he feels it's not about mentality, and the mentality word is overused in football. But I think, it's a lazy question. It's not the question I would ask, but I also think you are allowed as a field reporter after this performance to ask it. How do you see the eruption of the team captain at the sideline.
I mean, I think if someone questions your mentality, it does imply basically that the team doesn't really give their all or something. It's
it's an insult to your character. That's true.
It's an insult to your character and to your work ethic and stuff like that. So I think that's why Royce took it that way. Also, I think he took it that way because he just has performed like crap and he knows it. So I guess also it's quite easy right now to get under his skin, I guess. So the real question, and then we come back to Favre, the main character of this episode, that it's not really about like the team, like some work ethic or something. It's not that. It's more that, there's something wrong with like Dortmund just sitting back and, not really playing intensely. But you have to question the coach much more than, maybe some of the players, because if they execute what the coach wants, I mean, they still make mistakes, but they don't make mistakes in terms of like tactical execution or something. And also what he said, I remember what he said in German. You try to translate it. Also, it's a little bit difficult to really translate verbatim. But what he said, or what Royce said, or what he responded, was that basically it's not about mentality. It's about how we defend our like defensive performance. And that's something that much more questions what the team does as a collective base, or what the coach wants him to do. So, either it's something, like down to just individual mistakes defensively, or it's down to the overall approach the team has to take, because the coach says so. So I guess when I interpreted Roy's response, correctly, I guess that's much more what he is annoyed about. So yeah, but overall, I mean, if you question the mentality of players, I mean, they will usually either they give you a no answer or a non-answer, or they will basically fire back, because usually that's not something you should do. I mean, what's Royce supposed to say? Yeah, we lack mentality. We are just, we only play great when the sun is shining. So,
yeah, we're a bunch of lazy clowns.
Yeah, we're a bunch of lazy millionaires. So sorry. It's like, okay. I mean, then he can just, retire as Dortmund's captain and just, leave or something. So no, of course he doesn't.
Yeah, I think it's a lazy question, because the word mentality is misused in so many ways, because it's not descriptive enough, and it's weird because especially Germans are usually known for their very precise language skills, let's say, and
because there are a million words in German language.
Exactly. So it's a bit annoying that this is what comes out of, and I can completely understand any wrath pointed towards Sky, to be honest. But yeah, I just thought it was funny and wanted to reenact that a little bit. In my defense, though, I have the quotes from like a 20-second video that someone posted on Twitter, and whatever Kicker transcribed right after the game. I don't know how accurate that is, so I'm glad you could add a little bit more to that little tidbit there from Royce. But it was just funny, to be honest.
It was more fun than anything else. I mean, it's just, don't read too much into stuff like that. Basically, no. It's also football, and even like this post-match stuff. Although I think sometimes it's a little bit of like overdone these days, but still, it's also part of like a entertainment machine, basically. Yeah. Although, as I said, I mean, I think like these, especially the post-match and interviews and the post-match analysis on TV are, it's like overdone to some extent now.
Yeah, the questions are not really good, and if the question is good, you will also not get a good answer, because the player will just say, "Well, I have to rewatch the game, and then I can give you an answer," basically.
Yeah, or he will give you a non-answer, like basically, no, I don't, we made a couple of mistakes. Now we have to get back on the training pitch and do our homework, and then we will get 3 points next weekend or something.
Yeah, the coach will show us the errors and then we'll improve them next week.
Yeah. So, okay, all right. And reading too much into like a few sentences spoke after matches, like it's, of course, I mean, the papers have to be filled and Twitter has to be filled. I mean, if Twitter's empty, then that can't be.
There's only Luca left then.
There's only Luca left with like an old vintage Dortmund jersey, and that's it. So of course, and also like TV time, they have like 30 minutes, 45 minutes for post-match stuff. So I mean, they have to do something with the time, even if euros are dropping by the minute.
All right. Okay. So I think we have thoroughly discussed the game against Frankfurt. Sure, we could have talked a little bit more about individual performances, but I thought while I have you on, while you're not giving speeches to other people, wasting your life with other nonsense, and while I have you on the Yellowwallpod, we could have a bit more of a general discussion.
The biggest nonsense of them all.
Yes, of course. Let's move on to Werder Bremen, who are right now 10th in the Bundesliga after 2 wins and 2 losses. They took the most recent one against RB Leipzig. I think there was a 3-0. I don't know. Was it? I mean, obviously it was a shutout, but was it that clear? Did you see the game? Was it clear cut?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was nothing to really talk about. It's just they were
Bremen
outperformed.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, Werder is one of these teams, especially right now with basically half the squad injured. They can't compete with a team like Leipzig that's also on a roll.
Yeah, Leipzig really are on a roll, and I mean, it's going to be the top game on Saturday, so it's going to be the evening kickoff. And
well, actually, the top game is Leipzig against Schalke, but yeah.
Wait, what?
No, not in terms of.
In terms of
team ranking right
now. Teams on form, you say?
Yeah, team ranking basically. I mean, so Schalke and Leipzig are among the top 5 in the league.
Right. Cool. Anywho, what I was trying to say is that Nico Schulz is out and Mats Hummels is doubtful with a back injury. I don't think he trained on Wednesday, and I don't know if he trained today on Thursday. I'm not entirely sure, but I would assume that he will be out as well, and Bremen will have to do without Yuya Osako and Niklas Füllkrug and Moisander. But there is, of course, the return of Nuri Sahin after his suspension that he got against Union Berlin for being sent off there. And Ömer Toprak could also make a return. And I think Philipp Bargfriede is back, and Milo Rashica is fit again.
Returned. Yeah, Bargfriede returned. I mean, I can update you a little bit on personnel. But also before I do that, actually, I usually check the team news on who scored. And they had 3 bullet points on Dortmund, like something about Piszczek and maybe that Hummels is out.
And Bremen have 4 bullet points.
Sorry?
And Bremen have 4 bullet points.
Yeah. But Dortmund's third bullet point. Forgotten man Mario Götze may get a rare chance in an advanced role with the games coming thick and fast. Forgotten man, and also who's thick and fast? Also, somewhat fast.
What's coming thick and fast? Götze or the games?
Yeah, that's what it's joke. But thank you for explaining the joke.
You're welcome.
Bloody wanker. Yeah, so I guess, I mean, I don't know, because like the half the Bremen team is like injured or not really fit and whatnot. I don't know what they are doing up there. I guess just slaughtering players like in the dark or something. I guess they will play. They might play a back 3 with actually there will be a back 3 to. That will be a sight to see. Friedel, Sahin in the middle, and Nuri Sahin in the middle
as center back.
As center back, yes, a central defender in the back 3, and Theo Gebrselassie on as right back, and then
Well, if that happens, Dortmund will win like 11-0.
Yeah, well, could be. Bittencourt as a left wing back, then Michael Lang as Michael Lang. Long, basically. Michael Long as a right wing back, and the Eggesteins and Klaassen in midfield, and Sargent or Goller, a former Schalke player, and Rashica up on top.
Yeah, I mean, Rashica is actually a very good addition for Bremen, so they should be glad that he returns.
Yeah, because it's but just about the backline, it's rumored that Toprak is not fit for the match. So I mean, they got Christian Kroos left, a 31-year-old central defender who just made his Bundesliga debut a few weeks ago. That's something, yeah. Just these stories.
Who's the usual center back pairing? Is it Moisander and Augustinsson?
Oh yeah, no, Augustinsson is their left back. It's basically Moisander and Toprak, for instance, but it's not really. Sure, I mean, Toprak came in, or or like if all players are on board, or if all players are fit, then it's Moisander and Velkovic.
Right.
Or Moisander and Sebastian Langkamp, but also Toprak was Langkamp, Longcamp. But also Toprak was signed because like Velkovic is maybe out the door some time, and yeah, but then Toprak got injured, and it's just a mess. So yeah, there's something to be said that maybe Nurishane will play in the middle of the back three. Yeah. Because he's back from suspension.
So I just also opened who scored, and what we can see in the probable lineups is that
totally wrong, but all right.
Yeah, I think Mark Lovell is the one in charge for this now. My former ESPN colleague who covered Bayern as the beat writer. So obviously he doesn't know what he's doing. But no, more. but
okay.
More on a serious note, if we look at double pivot Weigl and Witsel, is this something you would roll out against Bremen, where Dortmund will probably have more possession? Yes, Bremen, I think, is the team with the fourth most possession in the Bundesliga, but I assume that, especially in this game, Dortmund will have more of the ball. Or do you think that the double pivot with Delaney and Witsel, and then having Guerrero and Hakimi, for example, play with adding more of the playmaking skill from the sides solves that, and you would stick with what sort of worked in the last two home games? In other words, would you play Weigl or not?
Yeah, I would try out Weigl again. I that's also something I forgot to say when we discussed the Frankfurt match and the overall like issues Dortmund have right now. It's also that there's not much like rotation and not much like change of personnel, and that's also something that might be detriment to like playing a more intense style. I mean, if the same 11 or 12 players are like featured in or like are playing every 3 or 4 days, of course you can't play as intensely as you could if you just switch some.
I mean, it's still early in the season, but I made exactly that point after the Union Berlin game, where I said this is the perfect opportunity to bench Marco Reus, because he doesn't need to play in that game, and just play Götze or whoever in his position, or switch it around however else you want, because Reus doesn't need to play every freaking minute. So just my point exactly. And I think also you need to find breaks for Witsel, because I said it before. In the games against Leverkusen and Barcelona, Witsel showed how valuable he is when he is fresh and fit. When he can press forward, that makes a big difference. But this is a level of intensity that dropped off significantly toward the end of last season, just because he was completely burned out. And if I were Favre, I would look very closely at exactly that and say, okay, we need to rotate more often and give Witsel breaks. Obviously, Witsel now had a break against Union Berlin because he was injured, but nevertheless, that's a criticism. And I also assume that then Axel Zagadou would start next to Akanji, because I think Hummels will be out injured, and then we have to talk about whether you would start Piszczek again or or play Hakimi. So,
make some changes, just for the sake of, letting giving a couple of players a chance to play, our players, giving some time on the bench, and I think that's what you should do. Otherwise, you have someone like, I don't know, Weigl for the third or fourth time on the bench. Someone like Dahoud not really playing any minute. Same with Götze. I think that's also something Favre has to do, basically. If he wants to, we don't know, but if he decides to let play Dortmund a bit more intense and a bit more energy, then you have to manage said energy more smartly, and you don't have to have the same starting 11 or, the same 11, 12, 13 players.
Dortmund now had 6 days to recover because there wasn't a midweek fixture, but obviously on Wednesday they will play away to Slavia Prague. And I wonder, should Dortmund rotate now or the next game? There are a couple of good candidates that I would actually bench for the game against Bremen. For example, Jadon Sancho, who hasn't really performed all too well, and just maybe give the kid a little break only to unleash him the next game, for example. Just a couple of things to ponder. So, I don't know what we can expect of Bremen, but I think they will play a very intense game. Favre has pointed out at the press conference that Florian Kohfeldt likes to change the system within the game. So in other words, we can probably expect that Favre will be beaten by the in-game coaching of the opponent. So we have to account for that. So yeah. Anyway, and what else is positive?
Positive?
Well, Anyway, so again, back to Dortmund's midfield. So you would play Weigl and Witze?
Yeah, I guess.
And would you play Hazard or Brandt or both and bench Sancho?
I would give Brandt another chance. It's a little bit weird. He had one bad match and then he was dropped from starting 11 again. I don't know. I would also play Götze up top, I guess. Or even maybe play Götze on the 10 and Reus giving some rest. Giving Reus some rest. Sorry. Maybe something like that. Just, give some players, we prior to the season or during the summer, we talked about squad depth and stuff like that, and then you don't really use your depth. And,
then you don't have it.
Is it even there? Is it, if you don't use your squad depth, is it really there? Is the squad even existing if you only use 13 players?
Yeah, I don't have to count.
Those are the questions we have to answer.
That's what we need Lars for, because he could have told us exactly the percentages of the players right now. But let's talk about Werder Bremen for a minute. Who do you think?
Right, counting down.
Too literal. But who do you think Dortmund have to watch out for? Is it David Klaassen? Is it Maxi Eggestein? Is it Rashica? Josh Sargent? Who do you think really are the players that will make the difference, not because they're good players, but because they can systematically hurt Dortmund?
Yeah, obviously Bittencourt, Şahin, and Toprak. Because that's usually what happens.
The curse of the X will systematically.
Yes. Toprak might be out with injury or might be not fit or not fit to be in the starting 11. So I guess Dortmund will concede a Şahin free kick and also a Bittencourt 60-yard counter attack. Bittencourt running down 5 Dortmund defenders, including Berkey. So yeah, that's basically what Dortmund should do. On a serious note, yeah, I guess, up top, Rashica is pretty much one of Bremen's main assets. Maxi Eggestein, right now, yeah, he's more like the holding midfielder, so he's not like he's really there to shine right now. He's just working for the team a lot, which maybe doesn't help his own value as a player, but I mean, if you look closely, you see what he's all about, and that he is one of the cornerstones at Bremen right now. David Klaassen, yeah, in some of these intense, midfielders who can just cover a lot of space.
I think he replaced Delaney really well. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess that was one of the smallest transfers and signing or replacements, done in the couple of past few years by any Bundesliga club. I guess. I mean, you losing Delaney and getting Klaassen from Everton. I mean, that was like genius, basically. Also, I was like somewhat, not confused, but I was just surprised that they got Klaassen from Everton actually. So, well, whatever. Maybe they just bullshitted him into a contract. I don't know. It's just we here at the Yellowwallpod we ask the tough questions.
Sure.
Yeah. Johannes Eggestein. Interesting player. I mean, yeah, it's like fascinating that now he plays basically as an attacking midfielder or even as a center midfielder, where like a year ago or so he was considered like too small and too weak to play as a striker, and now he's playing in center midfield. So whatever. Yeah. So and Şahin, it's also like you have to watch Şahin at Bremen. It's like something out of, I don't know, like an old Mark van Bommel movie or something. Because he's just there, like he's really, really slow. He's like really slow. Still, good foot, good left foot, but just any pressing will make trouble. And also he now has learned how to just tackle and how to just like hurt people. So that's also interesting. So maybe he should play against Götze. That would be something.
I like actually think that Şahin always had that element.
Two overweight guys. Sorry, what?
No, I think Şahin always had that element that, his tackles were actually quite brutal. But I think now that his timing is even worse, it's not good for the opponent's health.
Yeah, but back then he made these tackles while running. Right now he's just standing there and like just flying, or just jumping.
He is using the gravity as the accelerator instead of his own.
Yes.
Speed.
And also, I think he now his kicks are have a little more of a twist to it. So yeah, maybe he'll get a red card. I don't know. Would be something. Or he will just play as a old-fashioned libero.
So, question for you. Mm-hmm. Is it more helpful for Dortmund if Şahin plays or if he gets sent off? What do you think is better for Dortmund, if they're with 11 men or down to 10 but without Şahin?
No, it's better 11 against 11 players, because I guess if like Bremen is down to 10, that's like the perfect scenario for Bremen, like pulling off the upset.
Exactly. That's the correct answer.
Thank you very much. You can transfer the 1 million to my bank account.
I will. 1 million kisses.
You can kiss my real side button. That's all.
Anywho, yeah, I think we're done talking about this game, and just hope Dortmund plays.
No one gets hurt.
Yeah, also that. And Dortmund play just as well as they did in recent home games. Not how they played in recent home games against Bremen though, because it didn't go so great. Anyway, Constantin, I thank you a lot for coming on and discussing the truth about Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, we are Dortmund truthers.
Exactly. No, but honestly, thanks for coming on and helping me out, because otherwise it would have just been me, since everyone else is either sick or in the air. So, yeah, please tell our listeners how to get in touch with you.
Just check me out on Twitter, CC_ECKNER.
That's awesome. You can find me at Stefan Buczko on Twitter. You can find all of us at Yellowwallpod on Facebook and Twitter. And to subscribe to our show, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and of course all the other podcatchers. Again, I'll say that our RSS feed changed, so some old podcatchers might actually just show episode 286 or so. So yeah, please update that. And what else is there to say? Yeah, please subscribe to our written content on theyellowwall.net and pitch in $1 per month to access most of the written content. That would be amazing support. And otherwise, I hope everyone out there just enjoys Saturday's game and can forget about the away game until the next away game. So with that, as always, thank you for listening and goodbye.